Ha ha ha! And we are back to the eerie sound of silence. Don't worry, this is intentional and is part of the next game we are now playing, Sonic after the sequel, the deluxe version. Which is important mostly for the sake it adds an extra boss at the very end, and that is precisely the reason why that we are playing this specific version, because you wouldn't want to miss this one for the world, trust me on this one. This time I have tagged out Tom for Flaming Claw this time, who will be joining me on this journey after the sequel.
I will indeed. I will say that these games, I'm not overly familiar with either of these. I have seen gameplay of them both before, and I really like this game in particular's music. So that's like where I stand here. I am familiar with some of LakeFeperd's other work. Like I really like Spark the Electric Jester 1 and 2. So, like, I am curious, and I know that these games are a bit of a genesis for what the Spark games would become. So, I'm curious to watch this in action again.
Marvellous. Alright, well, no reason to delay any further, I think. So let's begin. Before I actually press start, it is important to note that we will not have cutscenes on this time, which is unfortunate, but the cutscenes themselves for this game were made and rendered using Flash, and of course Flash has been defunct for a good year or two now, and unfortunately that knocked out cutscenes across the board. Like, it literally will not let you even start the game with cutscenes enabled. So it is a tad unfortunate, but I mean, we might be able to watch the cutscenes back at the end, but we'll just go along and I'll try and provide as much context to what's going on as possible. Alright, with that being said, let us begin.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things when it comes to game preservation, especially like for smaller, unofficial projects like this, where sometimes certain assets become outdated, certain things, just get replaced and whatnot. I know that you had a more recent update of before the sequel earlier that you were streaming. I don't think there is one of those for after the sequel yet, is there?
No. After the sequel, Omega would be the closest one to. However, that makes a lot more adjustments to the core of the game. Aside from being widescreen, it also adjusts bosses and the like. But the trouble is, it still rendered them in Flash, and the Omega project has since been cancelled. So currently, there's no way to actually view the cutscenes within the game, nor is there anything planned. But anyway, let's not get too bogged down by that, because we have the game here all fully working and operational otherwise. And can I just say that I am quite possibly in love with this particular lobby theme. It is so good. It is probably the best. It might even be the best soundtrack in this particular fan game, to be honest with you. It's just so good.
I don't know, there are some that I really, really like later on, but it is a fucking solid menu theme.
It is. There's very little that would get you hyped up as much as this particular one. But anyway, you have the option of story mode and classic mode. You don't get special stages, and you get the good ending with story mode. So if you're not particularly fussed about getting all the emeralds, you don't have to worry about it. But the classic mode, you get all 7 Chaos Emeralds to get the good ending. Don't worry about it. The Chaos Emeralds in this game aren't the most difficult thing in the world to get. You'll get plenty of opportunities to go through each stage. So even if this is your first time playing through the game, you won't be necessarily left in a position where you think, I only managed to get like 4 out of the 7 Chaos Emeralds in the entire time playing. So you won't get any of that here.
So right off the bat, we've got a hype theme kicking with Horizon Heights here. This is quite reminiscent of the first level from before the sequel, design-wise, but that in itself, I think, works to this game's benefit because, like, look, there's so much more going on, like, in the background than that compared to Hilltop Heights. It kind of shows you that this is definitely it's a project done later on after they've got a bit more experience with the visuals and whatnot. Like, it's just a really cool opening.
And it's nice that they sort of go back to sort of, I guess, where it began for them specifically. So you get to see like how things have evolved and sort of what the locales are like now. So in this sense, since we don't have cutscenes, I can explain a little bit about what's going on and where we are. You may notice the giant ring in the background. That is a current point of contention that we kind of have to deal with. But in the process, we also at this point still all have all 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Alright.
From toward the end of before the sequel. So I believe in the Omega version in the game, they do actually let you transform into Super Sonic in like the first zone until the first boss. Then the emeralds get taken away from you.
Yeah, of course.
Because Robotnik would attempt to steal them from you, but would fail because Tails comes in with the save at the last second. Being the absolute bro that he is. And then at that point, you're able to go ahead and find all 7 Chaos Emeralds again, and get to the point where you can become Super Sonic within the actual standard levels.
Now that ring design that you were talking about in the background there, that really reminds me of like just the general thing they had going on in Spark. Mainly Spark 2 from what I recall, like where it's got that ring pattern going around everything.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they would eventually just use a lot of the stuff from ATS as sort of like their points of reference and such in Sparks and Sparks 2, obviously.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it's also the sort of thing that I'm glad they're able to use some of the assets they've made in a commercial project. Because it's one of these things that these fan games are done entirely as a labour of love, because like for copyright reasons they obviously can't sell this. But at the same time, I like the developers being able to get a bit of cash off the back of their work.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where they knew they had something solid and well loved within the community, so they knew that they could possibly take the skills and the talents that they've had for a long time now and use that to create something completely new, which they would be able to hopefully make a little something back off of.
Yeah, and with Spark, more so maybe for Spark 2 than Spark 1, but they both definitely have a bump up in production value like compared to these games, and it shows that LakeFeperd was able to dedicate much more time to work on it, given, you know, it's like a project that you can sell and make money back from.
Yeah. And truth be told, he absolutely deserves it, like 1,000 times over for his work on here alone, so I'm glad he was able to take his creative energies into something that he would eventually be able to actually make something off of.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to one of the new shields in the game, the Spike Shield, and it has the same properties as the Bubble Shield in Sonic 3, with the caveat being that you can freely stand on spikes.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it also renders you immune to spiked enemies as well, so it is very, very handy.
It's sort of like a powered-up Mighty Shield.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, just in general, the level of momentum you can get with the bounce especially is very good. It feels a lot more aggressive than what the Bubble Shield had. Like, if I do that, I could easily get up to that platform and then use it on the box, and if it weren't for that ceiling, I probably would have rocketed to the moon.
Yeah, like it looks like you can use it strategically to get a bit of height when there's certain enemies about.
Yeah. Just not there, because obviously there's a ceiling.
Yeah. But yeah, while you're getting into this, I feel like I should let everyone know that we are raising money for the charity Child's Play. And what Child's Play do is they provide toys and games to children who are in the hospital long term. If you'd like to contribute to the cause, you can either click the donate button that's just below the Twitch window, or you can use this little donate prompt in the chat here. You can click through to that Tiltify page and donate, and all the money goes directly to the charity, so you haven't got to worry about any of it going missing or anything. And we are currently at $5,462, so thank you to everyone who's been able to donate so far. We really do appreciate it.
Indeed, it all goes towards a great place, and we're just glad that so many people have come out and are able to give a little something to them. It's been a widely successful event as a result of you guys, so thank you all very much.
Yeah, everyone's gone above and beyond. I think we've already beat what we made last year, if I recall correctly. So yeah, like, we really are grateful for that. Thank you all so much.
I mean, it's just always nice to know that even as you come back year in the year, that you can still wind up beating all your targets like that. It just makes it even more worthwhile doing what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Anything we raise is obviously going to be great, but it's just a great personal thing for us to know that every time we come back, we seem to do better each and every year.
And like the whole number go up thing feels a lot less cynical when you can rest assured knowing that he's helping people out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like, I am a bit of a number friend at the best times, but you know, if we can help out some kids with that rather than just me being a little bit obsessive for no reason, it's definitely a bonus.
Yes, dopamine is even better when it's going to somewhere good.
Yeah.
Alright, so, special stages and after the sequel. I mentioned this in BTS. It is a race to the emerald, and you got springs and you got slime. Avoid the slime, get as many springs as humanly possible.
Okay.
And chase after that damn emerald. It's not as easy as it looks either. Like, those slime traps can really do a number on your speed if you're not careful.
It looks like it's got a sort of Battletoads thing going on with the fact that you've got to just have like twitch reactions depending on what pops in front of you.
Yeah, and there's like no like cue really to let you know what's coming up, so you've got to really be careful. Here we go. Act 3 actually introduces, I believe, pretty much the first, I guess, proper bona fide gimmick for a zone in ATS, where you actually have invisible platforms which appear during the lightning strikes in the background.
Yeah, I do remember this actually, yeah. It's sort of like the whole Mega Man thing, except they do still remain as solid objects, even if you can't see them.
Yeah, it's just they show you where they are if you wait a little bit. But if you know the game like the back of your hand, you don't even need that.
True, yeah. Hamster, I think the way you avoid the slimes in the special stages is just by learning where they appear.
Usually. And usually the amount of slime you get on a particular run can vary. Like, you can get those little splotches, which aren't usually too bad, and then you get those really long lines, which can easily just kill your speed instantly. So, as long as you're careful not to go into too many of those, you're mostly fine.
Yeah, it's sort of bring back the rainy effect from Hilltop Heights as well, which is kind of cool as a little throwback.
Yep. Well, I mean, it is basically the same zone. I mean, if a climate is particularly rainy, then it makes sense to revisit the rain.
Like, there haven't actually been that many rainy levels in the official series from what I recall. Like, the only one that's coming to my mind is Rainy Savannah from Drift 2.
Yeah, I mean, it is an oddity that you don't really get much in terms of, like, adverse weather in the Sonic series, aside from, I guess, snow. When you get into, like, Ice Cap Zone and places like that. But you don't really get much, like, rain or anything like that. It's very unusual.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because, like, it's the sort of thing that I guess might be harder to pull off well, depending on the art style you're going with. Because, like, this is obviously a very simple effect here for a 2D game.
Yeah.
But, like, I suppose it's one of those things that if you're trying to make it look good in 3D while you're running at super fast speed, it might be a little bit harder to pull off, but still.
Yeah, thinking about it, rendering something like that must be a bitch.
Yeah, like, it's the sort of thing that we're getting more and more particle effects in games these days, but being able to have that going and also have the game stay running at 60 while loading in platforms and springs and shit on the fly as well, it's kind of a big ask.
Yeah, I mean, as the Unreal Engine obviously gets better and better, I think Unreal Engine 5 might allow for a lot more sort of weather effects with, like, actual significant impact to occur. So that might be something we get to see more as time goes on. Who knows, we might even see it in Frontiers, to be honest.
I don't think we'll see anything too complex in Frontiers, because you gotta remember that Frontiers is also getting a Switch version. So I feel like they're probably not going to push the boundaries too much for that sort of thing, because, like, whatever they do, they're going to have to find a way to scale back for the Switch without, like, losing too much from it.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I mean, I was thinking, like, in terms of, like, how in New Genesis Phantasy Star Online they have, like, rain effects and such there, so if they are, like, using some of, like, the engine and the assets from that game, then they might actually be able to pull it off.
Maybe, but again, like, I do kind of feel the Switch is a bit of a hindrance in general this generation.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's that awkward point where it's not like the Wii, where the Wii was like so much lesser hardware-wise than, you know, the other systems of the era, so they would specifically make a different version of the game for it. But it's also nowhere near as powerful as, say, like the Xbox Series X and the PS5. So it kind of, if it's gonna be a multi-platform game, they're gonna try and make a compromise rather than fully push forward on the more powerful systems.
Yeah. Alright, so the cutscene that would have played before this will introduce you to the Tails doll. Or I guess just regular bog standard Robo-Tails, as the case may be. So you can hit Tails to stop him from trying to shield Robotnik, and you can just safely wail on him. And then once you get to this point, you can just freely smack him down. And Tails is having the worst possible time right now in the tornado.
Yeah, Dimitri, we haven't seen much in the way of Switch footage for Frontiers, but if you're able to get a different version of the game, I would recommend looking into getting a different version of the game. Because like, I can see the Switch version being a little bit jank, given it's a like huge open world thing.
Yeah. Alright, so at this point now, Tails would stop Robotnik from making out with all the Chaos Emeralds, and then we would be at the point where we are now, which is trying to get all the Emeralds back, and also stop Robotnik with whatever plan he has.
Right.
And we are now into Zone 2.
I do remember playing a little bit of this particular zone a few years back. I think there's like an infinite jump thing you can do, because I remember I managed to glitch my way up through the top of the screen at one point.
Ah, well I don't know about that, but one of the gimmicks of the zone in general is that you got these waterfalls in the background, and you can actually bounce up them. Since it's not typically water, it's like sugar.
Yeah, it was one of them sections where I just kept jumping, and I guess there was maybe one particular little slot of the ceiling that didn't recognise properly as a solid object.
That is a possibility. So yeah, you can also get sugar highs in this. So Sonic can end up in a sugar rush, which means he will be constantly going at top speed non-stop.
That actually sounds cool.
And you can see like his pupils dilate and everything when he picks him up.
No, Dimitri, it's not Cocaine Zone. I know it looks kind of similar.
No, I was saying before in BTS that I jokingly call this Cocaine Coast Zone.
Okay.
Also, as odd as it sounds, this zone doesn't actually have a boss in it.
Ah, okay.
And that's mostly because Act 3 in itself is a lot longer than like the other zones typically are. So they decided to just make that the level in itself.
Right, yeah.
And I guess, like, if you're looking at it from, like, a canon perspective as well, like, we just literally caned Robotnik's machine, so he needed some time to reconvene and get something new mocked up.
Yeah, I'm sure it won't take him too long. He's pretty good at turning these around.
Now, I'm trying to keep my rings as best I can, because you do actually need a set amount to access the special stages this time around. It works in the same way as Sonic 1 does, so you need a set amount before you reach the gold ring, but it's a lot less taxing, let's just say. So rather than 50 rings, you only actually need 30.
Okay.
I believe is the actual number.
That works out, actually, because, like, yeah, I'm seeing from the level design, I'm not sure how much better it gets here compared to before the sequel, but I saw during before the sequel there are a few parts where they would just have a little bit advanced free-ish kind of enemy placement, so that's something that you did need to kind of pay attention to if you're trying to hold onto rings.
Yeah. I was wondering then for a second why I couldn't spin dash through that thing, but as it turns out there was a spring there.
Yeah. Like, is this Anti-Tunstall on the guitar here? Because it sounds like his kind of music, you know. It's like, I know he was doing a lot of the music on the Spark games, like Spark 2 in particular. He had a lot of like electric guitar heavy pieces.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I was looking a bit dicey there. I thought if I was going to lose my rings, somewhere in there would have been the moment it would happen. Yeah, and sometimes the screen just scrolls up like that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Those are some weird-looking Synticles, ain't they just?
Basically, yeah. Is this Flicky's Island Saturn music?
Yes, as a matter of fact it is.
I can't make out because I've got it turned down a little bit right now so I can still hear you probably, but it sounds sort of like the Generations version. I don't know whether they've taken that wholesale or whether they have ripped it, because like, you know, like I say, I've got it turned down a bit.
I can't remember if it is actually a pre-existing remix or if it is something they literally did for the game, but I think there's a few that wind up in that sort of category where they do in fact exist, but it's like in a really obscure place.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't have that prior knowledge, you wouldn't know that it was a remix from like another game or another like music compilation.
Yeah, Dimitri, I have played a couple of the demos now for Spark 3. It's actually looking pretty cool. I'm not sure I'm entirely sold on like the alternate missions as opposed to just speed levels, but I'll probably form a more coherent opinion on that when the full game's out.
Have we got a date for the full version of that?
I'm not sure actually, let me go have a little look.
That was close. I thought for sure I was going to get grilled.
No, release date to be announced, but there are demos out. There's demos for, like, I think there's a public demo and there was a more recent one that LakeFeperd put out for some of the backers.
Ah, that's good. That's a thought actually. Is Freedom Planet 2 actually out yet?
Last I heard, it was due out next year at some point. I think the lead developer had to take some time off for things in their personal life.
Ah, okay.
Like, they've kind of got back to it now and are working on it again.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was the last E3 that they came out with a release date initially, and I thought, surely that must be near enough that date by now, surely. But fair enough, if something else has happened, then that is how it be. Oh, god damn it. That's all my rings gone. But at least it follows the BTS trend of if you've got the bubble shield, you don't lose your bubble shield if you're underwater, which is very nice. I like that. There's no worse feeling than losing your bubble shield when you're in the midst of an underwater section.
Oh, okay, never mind, ignore me. I've just checked. Freedom Planet is due out on the 13th of September this year.
Ah, nice. So, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. It'll be nice to finally see that actually out in the wild. Because it feels like because frankly, it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah, it's been like a kind of ongoing thing, and judging by the screen caps and that we're seeing of it now, it looks like it's had a lot of work done compared to the first game, so, like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that it's taken a little while for them to get back to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to finally getting to play that.
Yeah, well, I keep meaning to get around to replaying the first game with the other characters, because I played through it with Lilac, and I remember that being a lot of fun once I eventually got a feel for like how the game plays and controls and whatnot. And I know that the other characters, like, they have a unique level for like per character, don't they? So
yeah,
that'll be interesting to go back to.
Definitely. Although, finding time in like the next couple of months, that's going to be tricky with Digimon Survive finally coming out, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 coming out. I'm pretty sure there's like one or two other games that, yeah, Live Alive, or is it Live Alive or Live Alive?
I think it's Live Alive from what I heard, but I could be completely wrong. I've got gonna struggle a bit finding time because I've got like 30 more stream archives to edit together over the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, there is that too. Your personal work.
I am designated edit bitch for this marathon, but I actually kind of like that. For me personally, it takes a lot of the anxiety away when I'm live, knowing that if it all goes tits up, I can cut shit out later down the line.
Yeah. Is
this Radical Train?
I think it is.
Yeah, I am thinking about picking up the new Klonoa collection. It's one of them platformers that I've always kind of had my eye on, and now having it available in HD, it is one that I'm going to make time for later in the year.
Definitely. I mean, Klonoa is something that I've always heard good things about, but never had a chance to actually play myself, so it'll be a good opportunity for me to get stuck into it.
Yeah, I think the collection that just came out, I think it's 1 and 2, right? Because like, I know there were those two on the PlayStation, and then like there was a Game Boy Advance game as well.
Not Cocaine Coast Act 3 has the gimmick of occasionally you get tidal waved, where the level will be for a couple of seconds submerged entirely in water, allowing you to make use of the underwater physics to get to places that you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
God, that's nasty thinking about being completely smothered in sugar water. Jesus.
You have to drink your way out.
Like, especially, gotta remember, Sonic's like got fur like in his spines and that. How fucking long is it gonna take to wash sugar water out of his fur?
Probably a very long time. Oh yes, it's got some crunchy dubstep as well. I actually unironically like it as well here.
Dubstep's one of the things that I think it works well when it's a more melodic integration, because like when they're basically using it in place of like an instrument, then it's fine. The stuff that I'm not that keen on is the stuff where it's just like build up, build up, build up, drop, and then that's the song.
Yeah. Or you get like those ones that troll you by just being build up and then it never actually drops.
Oh yeah, they're funny, but you know.
Just musical blue balling.
I think my favourite use of like dubstep as an instrumentation, I kind of like what Cash were doing with that for a while. Like they did some really cool like dubstep kind of stuff. Like shortly after they got done with Generations, they sort of moved into more of a EDM kind of direction.
Yeah.
And some of it is really fucking good.
Just gotta wait for my moment to get up there. Or I could just do that. That works.
That works out just as well, yeah.
Just slingshot myself. Now I have to try make sure I don't lose my rings.
So I haven't noticed, but when you get hit in this game, does it take away all your rings or just a handful?
No, it takes them all away.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense because it's like a classic Sonic game.
Yeah. No, you bastard! I don't think there's very many rings up until the end of the level, so I think it might just be best just to count my losses.
Yeah. Is this the kind of game where if you don't get all the emeralds during a playthrough, you can just reload the save file and try again?
I'm not 100% sure. I have never actually tried doing that, to be honest, because I've frankly never found a need to.
No,
I mean, there's enough zones in the game that you can probably do it even if you make some mistakes. Alright, so no boss, so we segue directly into Cyan City. So we come off the Sugar Zone to be introduced to this sprawling metropolis.
Yeah, I'm noticing there one of the levels in Spark 1 definitely takes inspiration from this, the city level from that game.
Yeah, and this is very much taking inspiration from the city level in Heroes, I believe. If I'm remembering the factoids from the end credits correctly.
Maybe, like, it's got a little bit of Grand Metropolis here, although it stands enough on its own. Like, it's got its own colour scheme going on here. Like, Grand Metropolis was far more richer greens than that, whereas this has got more of a turquoise and red thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, it plays into the name of the zone, pretty much.
Yeah, Silver Dude, I agree wholeheartedly. They're bringing up the Pokemon Puzzle League game came out on the Switch online service yesterday.
Alright.
I would love to see a proper sequel of that, although I will say that between those, I was always more a fan of Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, the one on the Game Boy Color, because like that's based on the Gen 2 games, and it has some remixes of songs from Gold, Silver, Crystal. and it's just really charming. It's got that Gen 2 energy that I love so much.
I've never had much experience with like a lot of the side Pokemon games. Like the only one I have any real experience with is the Mystery Dungeon series.
That's fair. That's a little side series that I've kept meaning to get around to play at some point, because that's like one of the only ones that I haven't really delved into. The highlights of Pokemon spin-offs to me are probably Colosseum and XD, and I also really like the Snap games.
Yes, those ones are also very, very good. I'd probably say Colosseum and XD are probably like the best of the side games, with Mystery Dungeon probably being a second for me personally.
That's fair, and yeah, I know we've promised a playthrough of XD for years now, like ever since we got done with Colosseum. We'll get to it eventually. I have all the footage prepared. It's just one of those things where people being available at the same time has kind of constantly caused that one to be pushed back further and further. So one day it's one of those it'll happen eventually kind of dealios.
You just gotta wait for everybody to sort of be on at the same time and not have work commitments or anything like that going on.
Yeah, all you other people have real lives. I don't know how to work with that.
I know, it's very inconsiderate of us.
Yeah, folks, stop being employed.
Stop having a full-time job and being someone.
I would love to see Colosseum and XD get HD ports. I don't think they'd necessarily do it though, because like it's very much a product of Gen 3.
Yeah.
Although we did get a Snap sequel after so many years, so like never say never.
No, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's not going to be like a remaster. I would rather it be a new game sort of built around whatever generation is current.
See, I would like both, if only because like Colosseum and XD are both GameCube games, and they're among those GameCube games that if anyone new wants to play them, they're probably going to be spending an absolute fortune on eBay.
Yes.
So I would like them to get remasters that people can just buy and download on their Switch or whatever easily. But at the same time, I would love to see a proper sequel to that as well.
This one's one of the more trickier special stages, as you might well imagine.
It's looking a lot more complex, yeah. I'm liking that so far it seems like all the special stages have their own theme. Just rather than just being like a special stage theme that would get tiring if you keep failing it because you're not good at it.
Yeah, definitely. They're very good at that sort of thing in general. That was close. You might notice the timer at the very bottom there in the on the screen. That is literally your timer for the special stage. So once that depletes, you're booted out if you don't catch up to the emerald in time.
Alright.
Alright. I think Science City definitely has like my favourite collection of tracks. And also probably my favourite collection of gimmicks. Like this one for instance. I'm sure Flame will appreciate this one.
Yeah. Oh, this is the precursor to it really, isn't it?
Yep. So it functionally works the same way as a Kirby hat does. Like even has all the sound effects and everything. So you can like float around, you can charge up an attack and fire out a fireball, or you got like a melee attack, so to speak.
This is like, that's looking like it basically is Spark's moveset.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this was sort of like a prototype, so to speak.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know what was going on with the lyrics for Sonic You Could Do Anything.
Yeah, there is actually a lot of Toot Toot Sonic Warrior going on, I think, in this... No, it's not Toot Toot Sonic Warrior, it's the first zone of Sonic Heroes theme.
Oh, there's Seaside Hill, I'm not hearing it.
No, I mean just in terms of ATS in general.
Yeah, Seaside Hill is one of those songs that gets brought back, like, in fucking everything Sonic related. So, you know, it's like, it's a bloody good piece of music, but it's also been overkilled.
Yeah, it's like one of the things where... I mean, everyone jokes around like you have that like one new piece of music that you find out about and you wind up playing it on repeat like 15,000 times.
Yeah, like Sega do that with Seaside Hill.
But the trouble is, that's a lot of replaying in a short period of time. This is being introduced to that same song, like, over the span of 10 years. You will eventually get tired of it in those situations.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how good of a song it is, eventually it will get to that point.
Like, they seem to be using Green Hill again more these days, so I guess they've decided that actually they would bother paying Masato Nakamura for his music. Because, like, the reason why they were using Seaside Hill for so many of the spin-offs and that is that Shizunoi, his music was all done work for hire.
Ah.
Whereas Masato Nakamura was, like, he still owns everything there. So if they want to use his music, you know, like, he still owns that himself, so he can charge them whatever he wants for that.
I see.
That's why if you're hiring people to do work for you, you want to get that work for hire contract put down. Unless you're Archie, in which case, fuck it, like whoever handles it later on can pick up your mistakes.
Yeah, very much a let God sort them out situation.
Which kind of doesn't work.
No, it really doesn't. Yeah, people will try it anyway because they're morons.
Yeah, it's genuinely so surprising to me how incompetent Archie were through that whole thing. Because, like, everyone will say whatever they want to say about Ken Penders, but Archie left the door open for him to do that.
Yeah.
Like, if he was in a position where, like, you know, it's not exactly a moral approach to what he was doing, but, like, it's ultimately, do you want Archie's money, yes or no?
Yeah.
You're like...
Pretty much it. Alright, so, Flame, I have a question for you. Do you like Bayonetta?
I never really got into Bayonetta, but I believe there are some little nods to Bayonetta in this game, aren't there?
In this track in particular, yes, and it is a certified banger. I mean, it all is anyway, but this is like turbo. This is like a banger even among the bangers. It is so good.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing the Bayonetta vibe here.
I think the actual title to the track as well is like a nod to Bayonetta herself as well.
Yeah, wasn't it like Let's Dance Boys or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, if you look it up online, you'll probably see what the actual title is. Yes, this is not the first thing I've been playing recently that's been using Bayonetta mods, because of course I've been spending a fair amount of time also playing Vampire Survivors, and that has a very unapologetically Bayonetta character featured in it.
Oh, is that like the twin stick kind of game?
Well, it's the one where like you don't necessarily like fire on your own, like all your stuff fires automatically, and you're just sort of wandering around. It's like a dopamine simulator with like Castlevania assets thrown in. It is really good though.
Yeah, oh, Zero J saying that the song's called Espresso with Bayonetta. I do remember that now, that's a cool name. But yeah, with that game, like, I haven't seen much of that, but I know recently someone made a HoloLive version of that.
Yes, HoloCure.
HoloCure, I've watched a couple of people play through that now. That's kind of cool that they've got a proper game for that now.
But yeah, Vampire Survivors, I always make a point of you probably won't find a better use for spending like £2.50 than buying that game for like the price you pay versus the amount of time and content that you get out of it ultimately.
Yeah, British Dragon, that's kind of what I was saying, like the legal term for that arrangement is work for hire. At least it is over here and in the US, I believe. So like it's basically a case of, by default, if you make a thing, copyright is granted to you as an individual. But obviously that's very difficult for companies to work with, because if they ever want to reuse their assets, they'd have to go and seek permission from every single person who worked for stuff. So common practice is to get your talent to sign something called a work for hire contract. And so that just says that actually like you're producing this material for us and we'll own it. And that's just common practice in the industry, but sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's where you get complications. Yeah,
I mean, if you're a fan of anything Square Enix and Disney related, you will know this perhaps more than most people would.
Like, a lot of it comes down to being smart when you're agreeing to things and always negotiate. You know, like if you're signing anything, always try and negotiate in your favour a little bit.
Yeah, And I mean, negotiating just in general, there's no point in saying, oh, this is good or oh, this is bad. I mean, it's kind of up to you as well to either make it good or, I guess, better for yourself more than like them, but it's more just trying to hash it out, find compromises to get what you want so that they ultimately get what they want.
Yep.
Rather than trying to get everything you want and then ultimately winding up with nothing because somebody just goes, well, no, fuck that. That's like a terrible deal.
Yeah.
I believe there was an episode of the Venture Brothers that put that across very, very succinctly.
Alright, I'm seeing in the background now this is definitely Grand Metropolis.
Yep.
With a bit of flying battery in the foreground, because why not?
Mm-hmm. Flying battery with the whole sky chase thing going on.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm not entirely sold on. I never was a big fan of Sky Chase. I didn't like it when they brought the level into Mirage Saloon in Mania. I'm just not a big fan of auto-scrollers in general.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But the good news is on this one it doesn't last over long, because, I mean, it is supposed to be the boss fight as well as this little sequence here.
Oh, fair.
I think it's like only a minute long, maybe a little bit longer than that.
Flying Battery somehow relevant to Flying Fortress? I think they're their own separate things. Like, Eggman has a lot of ships to hand.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with the larger ones, you can probably see there's like a fair few similarities in terms of how they're decorated and such. Or it might just be this was the asset that was easiest to get, so that's the one that they use for the sake of this fan game.
Maybe, but like, Flying Battery is one of the more popular levels from Sonic and Knuckles, so if they're gonna do a little nod to one of them, it makes sense it'd be that.
There we go. We actually now have the prototype for Mecha Sonic here. As you can see, it doesn't have any eyeballs, so he ain't finished yet.
It's little attentions to details like that that I appreciate about these games, because, like, it's not jumping the gun, it's being very faithful to the fact that we're fitting this into the greater Sonic story. So, to kind of have it in the back of their mind that actually this robot wouldn't be complete yet, that kind of is cool, because they could have absolutely tried to go bigger and more exciting than that, but they showed restraint, which I think works for the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with the Death Egg thing as well. Like, they worked it in as sort of like a whole, oh, it's not finished yet. And it was already in the air by the time you sort of see it in Sonic 3. So,
yeah,
it works very, very nicely in that regard. But they kind of did it the same here, albeit a lot more subtly in the case of a Metal Sonic character. And here we go, you actually get your first appearance of Mighty in God knows how long if you've been playing this when it was, I guess, new. Because at this point, you hadn't seen Mighty at all in over a decade. And this predates Mania by a good few years at least.
Yeah, Mighty was in... He was in Sega Sonic and he was in Chaotix, and that was about it.
And then he appeared in a random wanted poster in Generations?
Yeah, there was a little poster on the walls in Cityscape showing like it was a wanted poster for Mighty and Ray.
Yep, who were of course both in Sega Sonic. And then Mania Plus came along and said, hey, you're not using these characters, why don't we use them? And then the rest, as they say, is history.
I think that I said this during the Sega Sonic playthrough yesterday, but I really would like to see them use Mighty and Ray a lot more now if they do more 2D Sonic, because the way they control in Mania is so fucking cool. Mighty is basically your easy mode because he has the shields to protect him from spikes, but Ray, you can do some really cool shit with Ray if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of speedrunners tend to opt for Ray just because he can traverse a level super duper quickly. If you sort of know how to use his gliding stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can skip past entire segments of levels just by doing, like, timing your flight properly.
Yeah. So we obviously have the nod to the standard homing attack bitch in this zone as well. Except this time you don't have a homing attack, you have to use special springboards and use those to bounce up on the badniks to actually get to the higher points of the zone. And any of the goodies that that part of the zone happens to have.
So it says, I missed the start of this stream. What's the premise? Like, I take it means in terms of like the story and setting or not.
Well, the story itself takes place in between Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. So at this point, we've been up in the Death Egg, we've destroyed said Death Egg, we've been chilling out, Robotnik comes along saying, I'm going to hatch a new plan, and we are currently in the process of trying to stop him. We've had our Chaos Emeralds almost nicked, but Tails came in with a save and scattered them all across the special stages. And we're just currently in the process of trying to stop Robotnik in whatever current nefarious scheme he has, whilst also getting those nods to all the stuff within Sonic 3, and I guess Sonic 2 as well, in the sense of you get to see like all the aftermath stuff.
Yeah.
And Spinball fans in particular will probably find a lot to like about this particular level.
Spinball fan singular, it's Donny. So Silver Dude says, all marathon we've talked about how it's a missed opportunity that Sonic doesn't have a rhythm game. But you know what else is in a lot of genres? Kirby, and I'm amazed that there isn't a full game spin-off which is like a space shoot-em-up. I mean, Kirby has that against Kaboo. I don't know. I don't know if Sonic would necessarily work as a space shooter, because I feel like the platforming works better for him. But like these space shooter sections in Epic Yarn for Kirby were really cool from what I remember.
I don't really have much experience with the Kirby series just in general, but I have heard that like the last few games have been generally very nicely received.
Kirby is one of the most consistent series in all of video games. Like, you could pick pretty much any mainline Kirby game and have a fantastic time with it.
Yeah, that's something I did notice, is that whenever I'm sort of looking back at like the Kirby franchise in general, and I think, is there a game that I remember that hasn't been received overly well? And honestly, the answer to that is no. Like, there may be some that aren't as great, but all of them are at least decent. Like, they're perfectly playable, they provide you a good amount of fun.
Like, out of all the Kirby games that I've played, the only one that I guess could possibly be a weak link is Dreamland 2 on the Game Boy. But even then, that's not a bad game, it's just some of the level design isn't quite as intricately designed as the other games. But, like, again, it's one of those things where Kirby is very specifically designed as a beginner-friendly series. And I think that works very well for it, because, like I say, no matter which one of the games you jump in at, you can just have a good time. There's no sort of, like, there's no filter on it.
Yeah, it's like no barrier for entry, like, you must be this much of a Kirby enthusiast to enjoy this game.
Yeah. Yeah, like, this isn't your grandma's Kirby.
If they ever use that as a tagline for a Kirby game, we know we have strayed too far from God.
Yeah. Like, Kirby gets his own, like, Shadow the Hedgehog, where he gets a gun and says damn all the time.
Well, I mean, considering how pissed off he looks in all the American art of, like, the various Kirby, like, box arts and things like that, I'm amazed it never got down to that point.
Oh, well, I suppose he did have a gun in Forgotten Land, yeah. It's not as violent as it could have been, but he
no, give me...
he knows how to work a firearm.
Yep. And anybody who's watched the anime as well will know. Where he's there with the AK-47 just completely being shagged by the recoil. It's amazing. If you've never watched a Kirby anime before, it is definitely worth a watch.
Original or for kids?
You could probably make a case for both.
Yeah, because anything from that era in particular, I feel like the 4Kids versions are their own unique experience.
It's like with Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
I never really followed Yu-Gi-Oh! But like, I remember there was the one that I sort of am a little bit salty never got finished was the 4Kids dub of Tokyo Mew Mew, or Mew Mew Power as they did it. Because that... it's not a good dub in the sense that, you know, they changed a lot of shit. But the music they put in that dub was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing with, like, Four Kids dubs in particular is that they do have like some really legitimately like good soundtrack, because obviously they go over all the music that was in the original, and they usually have to use their own because they don't have access to it for whatever reason.
Yeah, like two mixed effect. Like in general, whenever anime is getting localized, I would prefer it be as close to the source material as possible.
No Sanjis with a lollipop, please.
Yeah, like, but also I realised the mid-2000s were a very different beast, and like, you know, they were trying to get it on TV back then, so...
And it was very strict.
Yeah, TV rules were really fucking weird. Like, I remember hearing Eric Stewart talk at one point about a little trick that they came up with at the time, is if they wanted to get a joke in, like a script that was a little bit risque, what they would do is they would deliberately submit one that was worse and have that rejected, because then by comparison it made the one they wanted to use sound less bad and the networks were more likely to approve it, which is actually kind of genius.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Eric Stewart specifically, but I do remember somebody else saying something very, very similar to that.
It's kind of a way of kind of tricking them into letting you get away with things, which I like a lot.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I mean, at the end of the day, anything that sticks it to the utterly ridiculous censorship folks is all right by me.
Yeah, like getting it onto American TV in particular was always kind of difficult because they've got a lot of people who like to write in angry letters.
Yep. I mean, you can have as much violence as you like, but the minute you have a boob in there, that's it.
Yeah. Although even then, it's like the amount of violent stuff that got cut that really didn't need to be. Like, I think the funniest thing is in the Sonic X dub when you had like characters posed like clearly firing the gun, but then you hear the sound effect and it's just like pew pew pew, like a little laser thing. Where they have to take out the gunfire sound effects.
I mean, at least they tried to say, oh yeah, there was a gun here at one point, unlike with Yu-Gi-Oh, where they're just literally pointing their fingers at people whenever they had guns. It's so stupid, but no. I mean, I'll always use the GX dub as like a point of reference for just having fun with something and just saying, yeah, they're gonna get censored to shit, but we're just gonna have as much fun with it as humanly possible. And they just wound up with something just so ridiculously like camp. It just winds up circumventing like, oh yeah, this is all just bad censorship and everything, and easily becomes its own show, independent of the film, of the actual show that it's supposed to be.
Yeah, again, it's like there's certain things from that era, and like obviously the one that everyone thinks of with regard to that kind of thing is Ghost
Stories, yes.
Yeah, but like I like that exists. I hope it never ever happens again.
Yep.
Just because like I'm trying to meet in the... Because like to an extent it is kind of disrespectful to the source material.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People have made things. You got the original creators wanted it to be experienced a certain way, and then, you know, bloody gaijins come and fuck everything up. But like, for a product of the time, it happened, I had some chuckles, and that's that. I remember this remix of Can You Feel Sunshine. I will say it's not one of my favourites.
No, I mean, it's alright. But just the trouble is you don't get to hear the full version. Like, when it breaks out into the chorus, it's really, really good. But it takes a while to get there. That's the trouble, and the rest of the song is kind of mid, aside from that, to be honest.
It just kind of loses the charm of the original song, in my eyes, this particular remix.
Yeah.
Because like, it's meant to be a silly, over-the-top pop song, and I think having the dubstep instrumentals kind of is taking it a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, you got your Supersonic?
Yes, we have. And just in case, it does tell you how to activate Supersonic for the people who have never seen Supersonic in their entire life. And in this one, you can actually deactivate it as well. So you're not forced to use it constantly, once you've obviously pressed the button.
That's the problem that Sonic 2 had. Sometimes you would accidentally use it at an inopportune time, and you'd run under one of the crushers in Mystic Cave.
Yes.
But yeah, this whole trains in the forest kind of thing going on, I remember something like that in Spark as well. Like, obviously a lot more refined than what's happening in the last level here, but they were using a similar sort of idea there.
Yeah. Plus, I like the whole idea of like combining the mechanical with the organic. Is why I like Press Garden so much in Mania.
Press Garden, I like the look of Press Garden. Not too keen on the level design though, because it's very like colours blocky kind of level design.
Yeah, I can get that. But like as far as like an aesthetic goes, it's top notch. And it does have a really, really nice second zone boss as well, with the Shinobi callbacks and the sound effects.
That is something I really like about the games that Taxman and Stealth worked on, in the fact that there are little nods there which probably do go over a lot of people's heads, but also it just shows like its soul. That is like the definition of the word soul. It's just adding in that extra little bit of love to the game that wasn't necessary by any means, but it just shows that it's very much a passion project.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Sonic in itself is just one of those things that has a lot of stuff you can sort of make callbacks to and things like that. But more than that, Sonic was part of an age that was just, generally speaking, very, very well received by the youth at the time. It wasn't just your Sonics, it was your Shinobis, it was your Streets of Rage, it was a whole myriad of things, really. And like they all helped in some way to elevate each other.
Sega very much had a distinct brand identity at that period of time, and while it's not quite as strong these days, I do think it still helps define them, and it's also something that I feel has carried them through some of the less successful times they've had.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the Technology Tree Zone. The cutscene for this would have had Mighty seeing us off saying, "Hey, have you seen what Robotnik's doing?" He said, "Yeah, I saw him over there," and then Tails sort of wanders off on his own to the perplexement of both Sonic and Mighty both. There we go. Let's see if we can get the Supersonic going. Hey!
There we go.
So there's no specific Supersonic theme in after the sequel, but it does speed up the music that you're currently in, so it never interferes with the music in question, which is probably a good thing since all the music here is just insanely good.
Yeah, see, I think that's just an improvement on the whole, because quite often when you're playing classic Sonic, if you get the Chaos Emeralds early, then like the second half of the game you're just going to be hearing the Supersonic theme over and over.
Exactly, and usually the Supersonic theme isn't as good. Like, it's usually just the invincibility theme, which is why I love that Mania had their own Supersonic theme, and that is an absolute belter on top of that. Like, it's the ideal combination. It's just like, yeah, I mean, I could turn Supersonic and turn off the music, but I would also be turning on just this amazing track in the process.
Yeah, and I believe that as of the Encore mode update, it is also possible to disable the Supersonic theme in Mania if you do get tired of like hearing it over and over, which is also another idea I hope carries across to future 2D Sonic games.
Neat. But yeah, I feel like having like an actual Supersonic theme is something that I think gets neglected a little too much. I mean, obviously with the 3D Supersonic themes, you don't really get Supersonic in a level, so he obviously gets his own theme that sort of matches with like the final boss of whatever game it happens to be, but in the classic games where you can sort of have access to Supersonic whenever you like, once you get all 7 emeralds, like, I feel like it's better to just have its own theme just to sort of match the epicness, I guess, of the actual character themselves.
Yeah, it's just giving that bit of an impact, but yeah, like I say, I kind of prefer just having the level theme itself sped up. I suppose if they're building a game from the ground up with that, I suppose you could probably do something cool, like have it dynamically adding another instrument track or something, which would be neat.
Yeah. Another thing you might have probably have noticed by now is that you do actually carry shields over from act to act at the very least. I'm not sure about zone to zone. I have never really had a shield for that long a period of time, to be perfectly honest.
I think 3 and K and Mania do that as well, don't they?
I believe, yes, they do.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, because like the way the level transitions work in those games is like Sonic's just standing there ready to go on the next act without like a load screen or anything. So it makes sense to just carry over.
Yeah, it's not sort of like a fade to black thing, and then boom, you're in the next act sort of deal. Just having your shield just randomly stolen from you would seem like a bit of a cheap shot.
Just a bit, yeah. Like that.
Yeah, just a bit. Now this actually teases some tricky platforming sections that come up later on with tilted platforms that messes with your jump trajectory.
Goody.
Alright, let's collect a few more Ringos before we transform into soups. Actually, screw it, let's do it now.
Did you go out your way to get an invincibility when you are Supersonic?
Well, I didn't realise it was an invincibility thing at the time. I just knew there was a television down there.
Fair enough. Because, like, there ain't no kill like overkill.
You know, it kind of amazed me that nobody played into the whole idea, like, of having Supersonic just become more powerful if he picks up an invincibility television. Like, I feel that would have been a good way to sort of segue into, like, reintroducing Hypersonic into the franchise. You know, just have, like, that one brief moment of just absolute superheroism.
That would be cool, but I also can't see Hypersonic ever coming back.
I know, it's such a shame though, isn't it?
A little bit, like, I can kind of see why it was a thing in 3 and K, because like, obviously there's the second half of the game and they want to give you something else to work toward. But having a game, like a new game specifically structured with that in mind, might take a bit of a doing.
Yeah, like, I think that's something that would have to be sort of done sort of in an episodic sense, almost. Or just, like, have it as a thing where you do introduce it, but you sort of introduce it in the same way that you would introduce Supersonic to a 3D game, let's say.
Yeah, like as a story-based thing. Or maybe even like if they had a New Game Plus thing for like a classic Sonic game. So like if you were to replay it on a complete file, then you could go through and do like a second round of special stages.
Yeah. But no, I could easily see like sort of Hypersonic being used as sort of like a plot point of sort of going, okay, Supersonic isn't enough, let's go even further beyond kind of dealio.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a shame they never really made a genuine attempt to sort of try and reintroduce it in some fashion, even if it's just referential, you know? Like, you don't necessarily have to sort of directly have it inside of the game, but, I mean, have a callback to it, you know?
I feel like that's the sort of thing that some people who would really like to see Hypersonic come back might take that more as an insult than a nod, though.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Sonic fans are the most fickle of humans, as we all know.
I feel like it's one of the things that if people have been asking for something and then you just sort of tease it rather than deliver, then sometimes it might be rubbing salt in the wound a little bit.
No, I completely get that, yeah. I hadn't thought about that, to be honest. I was sort of at the bargaining phase. It's just like, let's offer a compromise.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll make him happy.
Yeah, we'll meet in the middle. Because like, I remember during one of the panel Q&As at one point, I think somebody asked Aaron about Hypersonic, and while he didn't have an answer to give, he did sort of allude that they might be worried about copyright issues in relation to it obviously being a Dragon Ball thing. So I don't know whether that's something they're being careful of too.
Maybe, but then again, I mean, Hyper was never really strictly seen as a Dragon Ball thing, just because it basically went through the entire spectrum.
Yeah.
So, you know, it sort of felt more like its own thing than, say, Supersonic ever did.
Well, yeah, true. But like, I suppose sometimes certain companies like to be on the careful side with things like that, and maybe if they had taken Hypersonic in a different direction in a sequel, it might have got a little bit closer.
Yeah.
But like, it could also just be that someone asked Darren a question on the spot and he had to pull an answer from somewhere.
Usually the arse is the most popular place for those sort of things.
Yeah, like that is one of the things that happens with Q&A panels sometimes. Like, you know, if someone's asking you a question, if a fan's asking you a question, but it's kind of awkward to just say no comment, so you kind of gotta fill your blank somewhere.
Something Blizzard only knows too well, much to their detriment.
What, don't you guys have phones?
I wonder if he still has nightmares about that.
So the thing is, I don't follow any Blizzard stuff all that closely, but that's the one that I've seen so many people rip into that guy over. Because, like, what a fucking stupid thing to say.
Yeah, they still haven't forgiven him, to be honest with you. People still call it back to this day whenever, well, Blizzard does anything just scummy. Just like, yeah, you're expecting any kind of attack from a company that pulled this maneuver, and then they'd immediately link the video.
Yeah. Like, I do remember a little while ago, VTuber Workshop Pippa, she did an interview with a former Blizzard developer talking about some of the antics that occurred back in the day. Like, he nowadays goes by the name, I think, Fellatio, as like a sex pun because he works on sex games these days. But like, he was talking about all the weird, random stuff that he got in trouble for at different points. Like, just the way that he would spend entire weekends just in the office, just playing games, because, like, it was easier for him. They had better computers there than he did at home, I think. And, like, at one point, he got in trouble for having sex in the car park and stupid shit like that.
I see.
Oh, and he also had a pet iguana that he kept in his office. And he would just keep it there and introduce people to it who would come and visit him.
Would you like to see my lizard?
Yeah.
Yes, you may also notice during the course of this game there are a distinct lack of eyeballs in each of Eggman's machines, so he clearly grew out of the Brum/Bob the Builder phase when he was creating his latest machines.
Yeah. Oh, Moon Mansion. I don't think it's this act, but I think some of the acts coming up have absolutely fantastic songs that I remember.
Oh no, this one has fantastic songs all around, like this one including, obviously. And then the second act is a lot more chill version, and then the third act, well, I won't spoil it.
Yeah, I am remembering this act as well now. This is cool too.
Yes, I believe this act was very much reminiscent of the certain Spooky Station heroes.
Yeah, it is all coming back to me now, just hearing the song. This is fantastic.
Yep. Although, one of the things I'm personally looking forward to seeing is, in the next zone, how many people will know the lyrics to the first song.
Okay.
Now, I'll say straight up, the song itself doesn't have lyrics, but there are people within certain sub-communities that will know, and they will know the lyrics as a result.
Okay. I don't remember what particular song it is, so I guess I'm being tested too on that one.
Maybe. I mean, it's more or less an open question to the chat here as well, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So you got to do some clever stuff here, because obviously you got these big bouncy ghost things, and they will repel you if you're facing forward. So they have these convenient springs so that you can actually speed through them whilst also simultaneously facing away from them. And there's a lot of secret areas that actually play into that a lot. So like there's a television behind this guy, so what you have to do is turn around mid-jump so that you can actually spin into the television.
That is really cool, actually.
Like, it definitely has one of the more cleverer gimmicks.
Yeah, I could see it getting annoying if they weren't placed properly, but in the couple that we've just seen, that is a neat little stage gimmick. Okay, maybe this one was a little bit tight, yeah.
I believe crouching does also work, so like for those ones there, like there's no obvious springs, so you have to kind of spin dash to get through that one.
Ah, whatever works.
So they've obviously thought of multiple ways of making use of the gimmick to make sure that it works. As Supersonic slowly slides menacingly into the second act.
Just easing his way over.
He's tapping that directional button. Now we get something a bit more chill.
It's coming back to me.
Oh yes. Then you'll definitely love Act 3 then.
I remember Act 3 very specifically, yes.
There we go. Seems so clever. It's just like, hey, face away from them, get goodies.
I was talking earlier about dubstep songs having a problem just waiting for the drop, but I know what's coming.
You're waiting for that drop even though the song hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, like, this is a song that I had in one of my playlists on my YouTube channel that I would just leave running sometimes.
Ah, yes. I mean, it's just such a good song in general. Although I have to say, the guitar work in the second act one is very nice and clean. It's like almost Persona-y in a way. Like when you sort of get into those sort of levels where you're going back after having found out the boss's desire or whatever, and then you go back into the area and sort of break out all the instruments. Dun 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 dun.
I think that particular riff was taken from something in another game, but I can't remember what it was.
No, I wouldn't know either, unfortunately.
I don't think it was a Sonic game, I think it was taken from something else. Yeah, Andy Tunstall's guitar music is consistently fantastic. Like, some of the songs in Spark are fantastic as well. Oh, if that was Sonic Mania, that would have crushed you just then.
Yeah, I've sort of wondered what the collaboration between him and T-Lux would actually look like. Because in a way, I feel like they have very distinctive and unique styles, and it may not jive right. But with the right direction and such, I feel like it could possibly create something that would literally annihilate the ears of everybody listening to it, because there's absolutely zero chance of hearing anything better in your entire life after that.
Yeah, you say that, although T-Lux is very flexible with his music styles. If you listen to his album Universe, he's got all kinds of different things. He's got some pop music, some dance music. It all sounds fucking great.
Well, maybe such a thing would be possible without sort of collapsing into itself then. Idea for Mania 2 then. If we ever make it.
God, I fucking wish Sega would commission Mania 2. They probably won't, because that'd be smart, but you know.
They're not known for being clever. I mean, this is the same Sega who seems to refuse to sell their games outside of Japan, so they barely put any effort into actually advertising and promoting it. And then they wonder why the game performed so poorly.
Maybe them buying Atlas was a perfect match then.
Yeah, it's like the legendary 100% match on Tinder.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's you, but a chick. It's always very jarring seeing the very, very huge spikes in this level. It's just like you're not used to seeing one quite that big. You're obviously used to the smaller ones, but they show this large one at you, you're just like, what the fuck is this?
Obviously you were Supersonic there, but what's the hitbox like on those? Because I could see it maybe being a bit fiddly to guesstimate.
Surprisingly generous.
Oh, okay.
You'd be surprised how unoften you impale yourself on those. Anyway, Act 3 time.
Yep, soak it in. Fucking riff.
It's so good. And we also get to see a return from before the sequel. It's that guy who kept harassing Tails for the entire game.
Also, pre-patched Sonic Mania. That boss, I don't... it wasn't that great before the patch. And the new one they brought in is just clunky. I had a lot of trouble with that during the Encore mode run stream the other day.
Yeah.
It's just kind of so easy to just get trapped behind the boss and fall into the pit.
Yeah. You underestimate how difficult those sort of sections tend to be, because it's so easy to get yourself nicked in a piece of the level that you're not supposed to, and then it just causes a complete pizdec.
Didn't I realise it, wasting all of my Encore mode characters that are collected up on that one boss. Like, everything about this song, every single part of it just has something really fucking cool going on.
There's not a single second that's dull.
Yeah.
Like, even the bit that sort of acts as a segue is just amazing. And right back into it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they considered this his magnum opus, to be honest.
It's up there. Like, I think the songs, like the Andy Tunstall songs that come to my mind mostly are this, the previous act, and also the Fark boss theme from Spike the Electric Jester 2, along with the vocals. Now we get to hear it sped up.
And it's still good!
Yeah, they do like to surprise us sometimes to the music, so you can't like they don't always go for the obvious picks.
I think we might be near the end of the zone now.
Nice.
And we get to see more of my favourite thing in the whole world, dynamic music changes.
Nice.
And he's just going to do a little shimmy to the right.
Yeah. I'll be waiting over here if you don't mind.
Da, 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 off the screen. And if you like cowbell, this is another song you might appreciate.
Well, I don't fear the Reaper, I can say that much. Oh, I thought that was Pit, but it's got like the safety wind. That's cool.
Yep. Mastery over the weather. Let's let him cycle through, just so we can get all the flavors. I always appreciate when games sort of have more fun with the music than merely just putting it in the game to begin with. Anyway, we can't tarry for too long, because we need to see if people know the lyrics to Parhelion Peak Act 1. Studying than I remember. He attempts to walk off the edge, he's just like, ah, help me! Yes, here we go. Oh no. Oh, it's the next zone. Oh, hold on a second. So Parhelion Peak is actually after this zone, so don't worry, you don't have to look up the lyrics just yet. While Sonic is obviously very much glitched at the moment, but it's an easy fix. I think that's more or less a bugbear with DX specifically, because I don't think it's evident in the original, and I don't think it's evident in Omega either. But it's still quite funny. Oh yeah, this one also has like a series of bangers.
Am I back? I think I'm back, maybe?
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, it's just my connection's been really fucky these last couple of days, and I'm not sure exactly why.
That's alright, you haven't missed much. You missed Sonic forgetting how to run, so we had to kind of slide our way to the first part of the level.
Yeah, okay. This looks like Labyrinth, but more interesting, with some Hidden Palace assets.
Labyrinth, Hidden Palace, bit of lava thrown in there.
Oh, no.
Is a Neapolitan. Oh shit. That was a bad move on my part. It's like I immediately regretted my decision, but it took a full second for me to face the consequences of my actions.
Yeah, it's like you've already realised what you've done wrong, and then it's like, okay, now I've got to suffer.
I've got to wait for my punishment. Yeah, the zone I was thinking of, the unofficial lyrics, hasn't come up yet. That's the next zone, I believe.
No, okay.
But we get this neat little zone. And there you get to see more of the lava-y stuff. And here's what I was talking about before with the slanted platforms, messing around with your jump trajectory. Like, it looks simple enough, but it is deceptive in its trickiness.
That's a 2D platformer classic, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, how used to the physics are you really? I don't know how that happened, but we take those. Just gotta be careful not to be eaten by the chain jump bastards.
I was just thinking that looks kind of like a chain jump, yeah. According to Dimitri in the chat, the composer for this zone is Michael Staple, who did the music for the Sonic Chaos remake as well. I've actually seen a little bit of gameplay of that. That looks like a really cool project.
Yeah, I've heard bits about it as well, but unlike you, of course, I have not actually seen anything of it. I've just heard about it by name when people are talking about Sonic hacks and fan games of, like, the more recent years. Like, it usually gets mentioned in with, like, the Neutronic Panics and things like that.
I think TSSE Noah is part of that as well, but don't quote me on that. But, like, I am mostly looking forward to seeing a new generation of people trying and failing to pronounce Gigalopolis Zone. It takes some getting used to.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, I'll give you that.
What do you think of the 8-bit games on the whole, Volk?
On the whole, I mean, I don't think they're terrible. I mean, obviously you've got a lot of limitations on the system, which I think are very plain to see, but that's not necessarily the fault of the game themselves, more just, obviously they're dealing with something very new, like, handheld stuff in general isn't really something that people sort of, like, have much experience with. They probably have, like, grander visions for things, and then, of course, handheld being handheld, they have to kind of dial those back down a bit. But no, I don't find them offensive in any way. I mean, obviously I feel like a lot of their potential sort of winds up unrealized.
Like, I think my favourite of them, at least like out of the main series platformers from it, is Sonic Chaos itself. There's some that, like, I do think are a little bit worse where, like, Sonic 2, Master System and Game Gear has some quite questionable level design at times.
Yeah, I mean, the Master System version does play pretty well though, at the very least, but it's like one of those things where it was like my very first Sonic game, so there might be a little bit of bias ringing through there.
That's understandable. Yeah. Like, if we're talking 8-bit games in general, I showed them off earlier in the marathon, but I have a soft spot for Drift and Drift 2. Like, they are just such fun little racers.
Yeah, it's like me with 3D Blast Flicky's Island. Like, I unironically like that game, and even Mexi was like, "Why did you agree to play this game?" He was like, "I just like it." It's just a Marge Simpson meme. I just think it's neat.
Oh, so I'm gonna have to bully you as well as Tom, I see.
But no, I mean, obviously most people consider the Saturn version superior, but I'm one of the few that says, yeah, I mean, it does have some better points, but at the same time, I vastly prefer the music of the Mega Drive version.
Yeah, like, I think both of them do have some highlights musically speaking, but I have a soft spot for the Mega Drive sound chip in general. So, like, it kind of has that advantage in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, that's entirely understandable. Oh god!
Oh god, what the fuck are you?
We're in maximum overdrive!
Yeah.
We have found a way to reach speeds not attainable.
Yeah, I saw Bone the Cat in chat said turns the brightness down on my phone. Like, you really need to do that when Supersonic kicks in.
Yes, like the victory music is barely eligible. It's just noise. It's so fast. So, one thing I completely ignored the glance past while we were going off on our Sonic Chaos tangent is that the fire shield does effectively act as the bubble shield when you're under lava.
Oh, that's cool. So, like, does it treat fire in this game as basically water? Like, can you drown under fire?
to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if it programmed that way, but you would never ever get to a situation where you would actually witness that happening unless you like somehow debugged the game in some way.
Like, speaking of that, there was a little while ago I saw LakeFeperd talking about Spark, the Electric Jester 1 on his stream, and he was playing through the water level in that game, and he talked about how he specifically made the drowning thing kick in a bit faster than you would expect because he wanted to add that extra little bit of pressure. And I just thought, that's so devious, but so brilliant.
No, I mean, it makes sense, because, I mean, if you play Sonic games for long enough, you kind of just get a feel for, like, when you're about to drown. You just sort of get this sixth sense of, oh, it's been, like, 10-15 seconds. It's probably going to be about that time where the drowning music's going to kick in soon. Whereas if you do it that way, it catches those people with experience out of a loop, and sort of makes it a little bit more challenging to them by proxy, because that sixth sense that they've relied upon no longer applies.
I saw you picked up this sort of blue thing that's sort of like a bounce state, and you had a similar thing in before the sequel as well at one point.
Yeah, they've thrown in a new one.
That's something that was sort of brought back in Spark. Like, there's a system in a level that's actually sort of similar to this, from what I remember, where, like, you can use them as... It sort of works like a lift, except you have a bit of control. It's kind of hard to explain, but the level played out pretty... Like, it was pretty fun to play like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, can Super Sonic just go in without a shield? I assume he can right now. I assume that's what's happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I picked up a flame shield, so we don't get to see if he drowns or not.
Yeah,
but, like, it's always something that you always... I think that question's been posed once before in real life. Like, can you drown in lava, provided you could actually survive in it in the first place?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't so much drown in much a sense that the lava would probably solidify and you would probably petrify from the inside out before you actually drowned.
Yeah.
Alright, I have to admit, I'm not... Oh, there we go, never mind. I was going to say, I'm not 100% sure what I'm supposed to do here, but... I found the answer in just the right time. Being joined in the bounce house.
Oh, yeah.
Boing.
This is getting a little bit silly.
Well, at least it's not wacky workbench levels of just absurd. Like, that one was, like, way overkill. This one's, like, it's a lot more modest.
Do not fucking speak ill of Wacky Workbench. That level is art.
I mean, it's art in the sense that anything Andy Warhol put out is. It's a can of beans. It's like, you wonder why, but some people have a deep appreciation for it.
This is my defense for a lot of the stuff that shows up in the CD, in that, in a lot of cases, when you see small elements of stuff like that show up, you just think, like, okay, it's inconsiderate level design or whatnot. Whereas with CD, it's so consistently like that, I feel like I am actively being trolled. I feel like it's very intentionally done like that, and someone is fucking with us, the dumbass, the player. And that I can appreciate.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, I always thought like Wacky Workbench was like, it was a neat concept, I just felt like it was way overkill with like, just how aggressively it springs you upwards a lot of the time. And like, this is me with my limited kind of knowledge and sort of gameplay off CD to begin with, so...
Now, CD is my favourite of the classic Sonic games, so, you know, that's the one that comes back to me the most.
So I think this is like our first like free-phase boss.
Right.
So we've had the phase where we have to throw rocks at him, and then we had to climb up the rocks in order to hit him in this window. And now the entire thing has been submerged in the lava, and now Robotnik only has this little tiddly ship to go off of.
Well, at least there's a bit more thought in this than the Lava Reef one.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Silver Dude says, I can't believe that Sega Superstars for the iToy was the last time the Chell Garden showed up. Well, like, it wasn't a true Chell Garden, but when we were playing the Minecraft Sonic game yesterday, there is a Chow Garden in that you can run to, and you can unlock Chow as you go along. So it's got a little bit of representation, but it's not what people really want from a Chow Garden.
Alright, I'm gonna let this loop around once and see if anybody knows what the hell is lurking in the background.
Let me turn it up a little bit on mine.
It's alright, I'll provide the answer to the question before long, but yeah. Bugger me. Here we go. Panasonic Blu-ray $99, LG 42 HD TV $489, Panasonic Blu-ray $99. Save on everything on Christmas in July.
Fuck.
Yes, anybody who is anyway ingrained in the Siva Gunner community will have this song ruined for them forever as a result of that one particular rip. No, you cannot have it back. It is cursed forever. But yes, this is Parhelion Peak. Not very many, like, obtrusive gimmicks or anything like that. I mean, it mostly follows the sense of there's, like, a lot of ice-themed things. You got a lot of those bouncers that you might recognize and know from the various casino stages. I think there's, like, a snowboard section or two in Act 2, I want to say. But a lot of the stuff that goes on in this particular stage usually happens in the foreground and the background.
Like, I'm seeing one of the badnik fuckers that's huge in the background for some reason.
Yep.
Like, have they got their own Godzilla badnik going on?
And like, you see Angel Island still in the background there as well. He's about to eat it. And now we get Act 2 music, which is very much something you'd expect to hear from a Rystar game. Like, it's not even like a pre-existing Rystar's tune sort of like remixed or anything like that. It's just sort of one of those things like, yeah, I can see this being in Rystar, just like as is.
Sort of, maybe slowed down just a little bit, because they tend to be more slower melody driven in Rystar, but yeah, I do kind of get what you mean.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like much more slowed down, just ever so slightly.
I wish they would commission a Rystar game from Taxman. I think he's the guy who, like, his team could probably make it work well.
I don't know. I think for a Rystar game specifically, just because of like how bright and vibrant the art style in that is, I think I would rather give it to Lizard Cube, who are the folks who are behind the Wonder Boy remake. I feel like they would be able to do the art style specifically of Rystar justice and really elevate it as like a proper like remaster / remake.
Well, see, the thing is, like, for Rystar, what I would like is I would like that game to have its own Sonic Mania, like, in terms of just the art style and presentation and that.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like if you go for more of the, like, Mega Drive style, but with more frames of animation, like, that's the kind of thing that I would like from that. And also, I know that Taxman and his team are very good at giving, like, the extra little details that a project like that I think would deserve.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, aside from that period, I just want a new Rystar game. I think it's been way too long, and I feel like it's an IP that hasn't really been tapped into as much as it could have been.
Oh, he holds the flag in the racing game. That's good enough, right?
You and I both know it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like what I was saying about Hypersonic earlier. Just like, no, we can't use that as our bargaining phase. Him holding a flag is not enough.
Nah.
What do? Game? Ah. Never mind, apparently there's a piece of the background I could go through.
Yeah, that's a classic Sonic staple. Yeah, the guitar's fucking sick when it kicks in this song.
Yeah, I'm liking the acoustic. I like the acoustic in this particular song.
Well, like, they're talking more about the solo.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really cool.
Now, the bumper is telling me to go that way, but I'm pretty sure that's not correct, so I'm going to take the lower path. And see if that gets me to where I need to go.
We'll go the scenic route.
The scenic route and also the very bouncy route. And nope, it's just taking me right back up here. So apparently I was going the right way before, and I somehow circumvented going all the way back around to going the wrong way.
Spring levels do be like that sometimes.
It really do. I'm guessing I'm supposed to go up this spring here? I'm about to run out of supersonic juice, I've been here so long. Ouch. Ouch. My buttski. Oh no! I ran into the bullet that I just tried to avoid.
Yeah.
Oh well. Pretty sure I was like near enough my first death, or at least my first death in a very long time, so we're doing pretty well in that regard.
Don't jinx it though.
Don't worry. We've got 11 lives. We will be fine. I think ATS in general tends to be a little less unfair than before with like some of like the platforming gubbins and what have you, so
The enemy placement seems a lot better from what I've seen.
yeah, like they're placed, it feels like they're placed with more purpose rather than just sort of feeling like a formality, which is definitely something they improved on between the two games, and that's very evident to see. Hey. And one of the few times in Sonic franchise history where the signpost is placed on the wall instead.
I was going to say, I do like that. That made me laugh the first time I saw it. I think there was one before the sequel, wasn't there?
Yep, at the end of Death Egg Zone specifically.
That's the one.
Like, it keeps that maintaining momentum as well. It's just like you feel like you just rocketed out of the zone and you're ready to get into the next part. Now, just to pre-warn as we're coming up towards the penultimate zone here, there is a chance that the first act of the penultimate zone might glitch out to the point where I can't actually play it naturally from, like, the transition. So there's a chance I might have to go into the level select in order to circumvent that, but we'll see.
Okay.
I don't encounter it all the time, but there's every chance it could happen, so just putting it out there, that might be a thing that occurs.
Yeah, but the Dimps games we've played so far in the marathon kind of get you prepared for bullshit, and then it's kind of a pleasant surprise when there isn't any.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Alright, we got a couple of Dimps games coming out tomorrow. Thankfully, like, Colours DS I know is a bit hit and miss depending on level design, but Generations 3DS is pretty neat.
Oh yeah, they offer something unique as well. It's not just like a crappier port, so to speak.
Yeah, it's like Generations 3DS is a perfectly fine game. It just sort of suffers a bit from being a good game, sharing its name with a great game. You know, like, comparisons are kind of inevitable there.
And it's just something that can't be helped, really. Because, I mean, of course, people are going to compare the handheld version to the regular version, just to say how much was sacrificed in order to make this possible on a handheld device. But, I mean, there is obvious limitations, sure, but they at least turned it into, like, its own thing with, like, the whole Generations theme. Just like, hey, let's throw some handheld levels in there as well. Let's just have, like, Sonic Rush and shit.
Yeah, it just would have been nice if there was a bit more of that.
Yeah, like, they could have taken, like, some levels from Advance, they could have taken some levels from, I don't know, what other handheld? Well, like, Sonic Chaos.
Like, Gigalopolis Zone could have been cool. I don't know, I'm trying to think what blast level I'll go with, because I think Red Volcano, you could do some interesting stuff for that in 3D.
Oh yeah, if you're wondering why there was a thud, I did accidentally clip my microphone whilst I was putting my drink back down.
People won't notice that in post, assuming I remember to cut it out.
Alright. Yeah, I'm actually playing this using the keyboard, because getting a controller working on this thing's a bit messy. Like, it's not impossible, but it's just too much faff to be worthwhile when just doing it via the keyboard is perfectly serviceable.
Yeah, that's one of those skills that I never did master.
Nah. If you're a fan of kaiju battles, you will love this zone. This zone's particular boss.
Oh, let's see this shit.
When we get there, it's a bit of a climb, must be said. There we go. But where are we? We seem to be inside an eyeball of some description. And there we go. Kaiju battle
sick.
of the century.
Yeah, Toki, we are unfortunately not able to get the cutscenes to run for this version of the game because they're flash cutscenes that are a little bit dead now.
Yep. And nobody has fought to do like a remaster of the game that allows us to have the cutscene play yet, so a little bit stuck on that one.
There was a fixed up version for before the sequel, but not for after the sequel just yet.
Nah. We might see it eventually. I know some people are trying to get BTS and ATS working on like the Mania engine and things like that.
That'd be cool, actually. Like, because the retro engine does seem pretty flexible from what I recall.
Yeah.
I know Taxman's kind of had that in his back pocket for about 20 years now, I think. I think some of the earlier projects he was working on that used the retro engine, or at least early versions of it, were dated to like 2003.
So yeah, this is what I was talking about with Storm Station Zone.
Okay.
You're just literally stuck like this.
Yeah.
With no actual way of... You could actually spam jump and just not get anywhere.
How'd you like them clouds?
So the fix for that is just to simply go all the way back, and we can do stage select. Another option if you're playing this game through the first time and you are happening to use the DX version specifically is that you can simply just load the game and sort of load your save from where it was, and that will also work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see if I can actually demonstrate it actually. If I go to classic mode and just go load game, let's see what happens. Yep, there you go. See? Although you will not have all the extra lives you accumulated, but thankfully we don't really need them. We should be fine. And if not, well, we've still got level select, so we can just sort of brute force it as much as we need to.
Yeah, you can always hop back to where you're up to, can't you?
As far as I'm aware, like the original version of ATS doesn't have that problem. I'm actually wondering if it's something to do with Flash as well, because like that's supposed to be like a whole transition from like the kaiju monster taking you up into the clouds and onto the deck of this thing. So that could be a possibility.
Does this keep your emeralds if you're going in through this?
Yes. So
Okay, cool.
I can transform just fine. Like I said, it's just literally loading like a singular save file, so to speak.
That's sort of what the dev mode in Mania does, if you ever fancy fucking around with that. It's kind of cool. And like, I showed this off on the stream the other day, but because Mighty and Ray aren't supposed to go to Egg Reverie Zone, they're not supposed to fight that boss, so they don't have proper animations for it. You can still use the dev menu to go to that zone anyway, and they just sort of run in place in midair. It's so fucking funny.
It reminds me when you tried to like take Knuckles and Tails into Doomsday Zone in Sonic 3 via the level select.
No, right.
Although sometimes they just glitch out just stupidly, but other times it's just literally they either have like a running animation or some such, and they just sort of run in place while you sort of maneuver them up and down.
Yeah, and you can also clip Tails into levels he's not meant to go in Adventure as well. Like, and there's a surprising amount of level that loads in, given it's not meant to happen.
It's like they don't know when to stop. It's just like, it's fine. They won't know that's a thing.
Well, like, usually you have precautions like that just as a, like, reserve in case, you know, it's to stop the game crashing on someone. So like they can get into the level, realise they're not meant to be there and quit out, which is just a better solution, a more professional solution than just having the game freeze up on them.
Yeah. Toe actually came through with the confirmation that it is literally only in the DX version.
No, okay.
So it doesn't exist in the original, and it doesn't exist in Omega either. But Omega is something of a acquired taste. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's like a bad mod or whatever. Like, it gives you the widescreen support, which is nice. It gives you a few more like options with like graphic settings, etc., etc. But the trouble is that they updated a lot of bosses to just be harder for the sake of being harder, rather than like creating some like additional nuance or anything like that. So, like, for example, if I take the Cyan City boss, for example, that one in Omega literally has the Silver Sonic from the end of Sonic 2 as a guy who just chases you around the level, constantly shooting at you from the front. It doesn't really offer anything. It's just making the level harder for the sake of making it harder, rather than adding any sense of additional challenge or anything like that. And it basically does that for every single boss in the games.
Yeah, what this game really needs is it just needs a modern port straight like before the sequel had.
Yeah, it just needs widescreen, and it needs the cutscenes rendered in something that isn't Flash or like played using some other source. That's really all it needs. Like, the game's already damn near perfect as it is. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel in this case. Like, the game is, yeah, sure, like, the game might be a little bit simple and a little bit easy, but since when has that been a crime?
Yeah, like, I want to go fast. This game lets me go fast.
Let's face it, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic 1, they're not difficult games either.
That's something else, this kind of electric layout thing that I'm pretty sure was also a thing in Spark.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think I've seen it in quite a few, like, sort of unrelated platformers as well, where they sort of have, like, that whole grid thing where you gotta, like, pick your moment to weave in between.
It's a timing challenge, which isn't necessarily what I would want from Sonic, but it seems like they're not overusing it to a point of it becoming annoying, so I can look past it.
No, I mean, it's a case in BTS as well as ATS, where the gimmicks don't ever seem like they overstay their welcome. Like, they're always there to provide something, you know, unique and interesting in each zone, and it never really gets to a point where it's just like, oh shit, not this again.
Yeah.
There we go. We are near enough the point where we get to do our Supersonic shenanigans, and there are many Supersonic shenanigans to be had in this particular version of the game. In fact, it is its own 3-act sequence.
Oh, nice.
So, something to look forward to there. And it's all very much well done as well. It's not just 3 acts for the sake of trying to prolong a Supersonic sequence either. And the weird gravity fluid makes a comeback as well with the slow elevation this time around. Which you must use to maneuver through laser gates and the like.
Yeah, I think that was the thing toward the end of Freedom Planet as well. It's one of those little gimmicks that you see fall back in various different things.
Speaking of Forbidden Planet, how did you find the final boss in that game?
Oh, Freedom Planet. By the time I played it, it had been patched, so it was less difficult. I know it was kind of bullshit hard when it first came out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I played it on stream, I beat the final boss purely by an accidental sequence that made me look like some kind of seasoned professional.
Yeah.
Just like, I stayed completely within his hitbox, constant special attacks, and just completely chipped away 2/3 of his health bar in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, but they did patch it in, so it's a lot easier now than it was like when it first came out.
I'll have to revisit it at some point and see if I have the same amount of trouble. Because I can't remember exactly when I played Forbidden Planet, but I think it was relatively close to its release. It was like one of the first like official live streams I did for a HFC, rather than sort of like a after party for like a marathon setting or anything like that.
Forbidden Planet, isn't that the film?
Freedom Planet, yes. Also, Forbidden Planet is that store.
I was just getting confused for a second there, like, yeah.
Like I said, I might possibly be dyslexic, I'm not 100% sure, but at least when I'm speaking it certainly seems that way.
You're not dyslexic, you're creative.
I'm dumb. And I freely admit it.
Oh, is there a Lilac cameo in this game? I didn't know that.
There is? I've never actually noticed.
Ah.
I wonder if it's in one of, like, the very, like, special acts. Because as well as each zone in this game has, like, their own special act that you have to unlock in some capacity. And I can't remember exactly how it was. I think it was, like, in, like, the challenge mode or a trial mode of some description. But I know there's meant to be, like, some way of, like, unlocking, like, bonus acts.
Oh, apparently she shows up in Parhelion Peak.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just looking for pictures of it.
There might be such a thing as verbal dyslexia. Quite possibly. I think the trouble is, my brain works faster than my mouth, or my mouth works faster than my brain. And it's just like, my mouth just pulls out bollocks, and it's just like, wait, that's not how you're supposed to say that, and then it realizes too late, and the brain doesn't have a chance to stop it.
Yeah, I do stumble over my words a lot, and it does actually get to me sometimes, but yeah, you just gotta live with it sometimes.
So, this is the Rye Starship.
Yep, I was just thinking.
And for some reason it grows multiple sizes. I'm not sure how Robotnik pulled that one off, but you know what? It's fine, I'm sure. It makes sense. I'm sure physics can answer everything. And in this one, we got to avoid the spheres and wait for a bouncy one. Unfortunately, I'm not doing a very good job of that at the moment. Mostly because I need to make sure I've actually got at least a ring. There we go. Overshot that one. Yeah, as you might expect from a penultimate boss, this one's a lot on the trickier side. And then it transforms into this immense beast, which you have to actually platform on.
Yeah, just to clarify, Lilac herself doesn't show up in Parhelion. It's just like there's a different sequence there, like a different secret there that's in the same video. She actually shows up in the sky level.
Oh.
You know, the one that glitched out on you. Like, I just found a video on it. I'll share this in chat for people.
Alright then. Cool. I thought that was meant to be like an extra platform. Or maybe I'm just being dense.
I don't know, it looks like there's a lot going on at once in this boss.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it's like literally the sort of thing where you have to sort of reach the apex of your jumping out to actually get to.
Yeah, apparently, according to British Dragon, dyslexia is your brain working faster than your mouth. So you start a sentence and your brain's already at the end of it, so the sentence kind of comes mumbled together. Like, yeah. I sort of have a thing like that, but I just always put that down more to anxiety than anything else.
It's like the verbal equivalent of like those old like black and white sort of flicks where it just goes scene missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Point skipped. Now we're at the end of the sentence. Yes, Splatoon's due out soon. I haven't really been following that much because I sort of dropped off with Splatoon 2. I don't know, when I got on my Switch I didn't really spend as much time with that as I did with the first game.
Yeah, on the Wii U. But yeah, I have to admit, I haven't really sort of been all that sort of, I guess, motivated to sort of get invested in Splatoon.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not to say that it's like a bad game or it doesn't interest me, but I kind of just want, it just kind of feels like, I don't know, I guess it just feels like the same game, which to be fair might be what people want, but I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Maybe there'll be something deeper that sort of distincts it from everything else.
Because I remember we all spent so much time on the Wii U version when that was out that I suppose I kind of didn't really have the motivation to look into it any further than that, because like, I felt like I'd done my time at the time.
Yeah.
I have a copy of 2 here, but like I say, I'll never really put much time into it.
No, I get it. I mean, we did wind up spending like a lot of Saturdays playing the first game especially. We definitely got our time in while the game was good.
Yeah, I do remember using my shitty old mic that you could barely hear what I was saying half the time, yet people didn't complain for some reason.
Alright, here we go. Super Sonic sequence.
Okay.
So this is the main egg machine, the Egg Owl.
Oh, I love that it's his moustache.
Yeah, I have to say the Egg Owl is probably like one of my favorite designed, like fan-made sort of egg machines.
I like that it has that concept, but he's also
Wait,
a bit of
why
a
am I drowning? Excuse me?
Yeah.
Game?
What?
Why? Why am I drowning? What's going on?
You're fucking super! Huh.
Apparently I'm dead. But I'm also not dead.
I guess just wait for the timer to run out and then...
That's certainly new. I've never encountered that before.
Hopefully it doesn't spoon feature rings at any point. It looks like you're missing all the rings, so you should theoretically be able to just die and try again.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
There we go. Alright, let's try that again, and hopefully not drown for no reason.
Yeah, try not to drown in the sky somehow.
That was so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, if it happens again, I might have to, like, level select it again.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
It is happening! Yeah, you might have to go back out to the level select.
That is so bizarre.
Oh, I thought it was going to just keep looping the drowning theme in the background there. That'd be like peak anxiety material.
Just constantly living with the drowning theme playing in the background. Just like, what the fuck's going on? Alright, anyway, level select.
I think one of the most cursed videos I remember ever seeing was like one of them like hour-long loops of the drowning theme. It's like, for what purpose?
Alright, let's try it this way then. Hopefully this will work as intended.
Yeah.
But I would like to know what the hell was causing that.
Yeah.
You know, just for science more than anything.
It seems like a cool concept for a boss pattern as well. Right? It doesn't look too difficult, but just as a... It's what I like from Super Sonic bosses, where it's more of a spectacle, more so than like a difficult boss.
Yeah, I mean, it was very much a spectacle than BTS. In ATS, they definitely try and make it into something more, though, which I definitely appreciate a lot.
Like, LakeFeperd in general is very good at this. Both of these Spark games have fantastic ending sequences. Yeah, Hamster, you can make any clips you want, mate. Yeah, why does it start us with 38 rings in particular? Is that just how many carried over from the last time?
No. I'm not exactly sure why it starts us off with 30. Maybe they thought 50 was, like, too generous.
Maybe, but even then, like, I would have thought maybe start at 40.
Yeah, I think maybe it'd just be a case of rather than decreasing the amount of rings you get throughout the level, they instead just decrease what amount you start with.
Yeah, I'm seeing in chat that people are saying that the DX version is a little bit glitchy in general, so it might just be, like, I think with this level in the DX one.
Yeah, it's just my first time encountering it, is all. It just took me by surprise. But no, I know it does something similar in the credits as well, so we'll have to do something similar when we get to the actual credits to the game as well.
Well, you can drown in the credits?
No, you don't drown in the credits. It's similar to how in the penultimate level that it just sort of kills you or doesn't let you progress. It's all similar to that regard. So here we go. This is Act 2 of the Super Sonic sequence. And in this one, he can actually take damage and he can actually die. The spikes are actually harmful. As to why this is the case, well, this is the special stage. There's, like, the rules need not apply.
Oh, like, it wouldn't be the only time that Super Sonic has taken damage. Like, you can take damage in the Unleashed final boss as well.
And as well as everything else, you've also got to contend with the egg owl throwing bullshit at you. So you've got to avoid that whilst also making sure you don't get hit by spikes. And you get multiple hits at least. You get 4 in total, including the empty health bar. And you do actually pick up... You can actually get health pickups on the way as well. So even if you do screw up early on or later on, there's usually a means of being able to acquire more health. Like, see right there. But if I pick this ring up over here, I'll recover my health. So yeah, it's like a very sort of intense, like, platforming section.
Yeah, Hamster, you're right, you can take damage in the Mania final boss as well.
Ah. So we've got to be a little bit clever about how we attack this half-pipe. There we go.
Yeah, you just got to time it careful.
Exactly. Then we can pick up the extra health, not get caned by the spikes.
This looks like you gotta be very careful with timing.
Yeah, like, it's not a very easy sort of stage to navigate.
Well, that's fair, like, you did have a fairly easy phase just now, so it makes sense that they're gonna ramp it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they sort of did it here where it feels like sort of you have some agency, but at the same time, like, you're not held back by number of rings, you just have to make sure your platforming's up to snuff.
Theory for why you drown in air, it happens to be very humid out. Could be.
There we go, at this point the owl is now stuck, trying to shoot laser beams at you. So you can shoo him out the way. Get yourself a checkpoint, and he's back at it again. So, just a general question, Flame. How familiar are you with the Saturday morning cartoon Sonic the Hedgehog? You know, the one with Pingus Robotnik, for lack of a better descriptive term.
Basically not at all. I've never really watched any of the cartoons in much length. I like the music from Underground, and that's about it.
Well, you might appreciate things a lot more then, but we'll see.
Alright.
It's in the third sequence specifically that this particular thing occurs. Oh, couldn't press the spring in time.
Some more health would be nice.
Well, I mean, I've got 2 hits in me. Well, 1 now.
1 hit.
I strayed too close to a spike.
That looks like the sort of thing where Supersonic being faster probably is a liability.
Yes. Alright, thankfully, I mean, the checkpoint doesn't start you off with much more additional health, but thankfully, very close by, there are multiple health pickups. So if you do screw up on the first portion, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I don't know how well you could have predicted those spikes being there, to be fair.
Yeah, that's the thing. In Supersonic, you naturally want to go fast, but this sort of throws it all on its head, where you have to sort of not be so much gingerly, but at least sort of look before you leap kind of deal. Especially when you're used to just being an invulnerable juggernaut.
Yeah, it's not often that you get a specifically designed supersonic platforming section, is it? So, like, there wasn't really much of a precedent to work with here.
No, definitely not. But they managed to make it work. Like, they gave it some urgency. Like, they made it so that Supersonic can't just waltz his way through it with absolutely no effort at all. And it's all making it unique to the fact that it's, you know, part of the special stage, so they can sort of turn the usual rules up on their head. I love this bit though, it's just you leap on the damn egg owl.
Yeah, just ride it down.
Yep. Like, you can see the actual blue sphere stages in the background as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and we catch up to it. And this is where after the sequel would end if we weren't playing the deluxe version. But since we are playing the deluxe version, we get treated to something a little bit extra.
Okay.
I don't think you're prepared for this, but here it is anyway.
Jesus.
Yep.
The fuck?
We have an actual Super Robotnik.
Oh, is this Bayonetta music?
I'm not sure. It sounds like it.
Yeah, because like when it first kicked in, I was kind of expecting a Fortuna. Which admittedly would be sick as fuck in the Sonic game.
Yeah, it would. But we do have JoJo Mudders.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, if you are familiar with the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, you may remember a certain scene where he has all the Chaos Emeralds and basically becomes like this huge muscular juggernaut of a man. And this is very much reminiscent of that.
Alright. Yeah, be careful who you bully in school.
I always end up not being able to avoid that one, but I think I've nailed the timing down at long last.
Yeah, I saw you just get that tiny little glimpse that it's gonna come there.
And obviously you can't really hit him whilst he's lasering, so you've got to be careful of that too. Whoop. Nearly fucked that up.
This is stupid, I love it so much.
It somehow still remains cool. That's the weird thing about it. Just like the whole idea of it is absurd, yet they pull it off in such a way that it's believable.
Yeah.
There we go. We have defeated Super Robotnik.
Nicely done.
We can still kind of platinum as well, and the sphere levels have apparently been damaged during that, so a bit of maintenance will need to happen before Sonic 3.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is what I was talking about as well with the credit sequence, so if you just bear with me 2 seconds, I will load up a version that will actually work, and you'll get to see how the credits are actually done this time. They are not merely scrolling, there is actually a certain degree of interactivity with them. Which is actually rather nice, because rather than having to scour the wiki for all of the fun information and such, you can actually... let's see here, do I need to do it via... stage select, I wonder.
Yeah, given it didn't save, like, it went on to its own save for you beating the boss. I don't know if it will have that still.
Nah. That's unfortunate, but oh well. It is what it is.
Yeah. Now, well.
Yep, I mean, we beat the game, so that's the important thing. So we managed to show off both before and after the sequel. And both a pair of very fun games that still very much stand to this day. If you want some recommendations as to which versions to play, I mean, After the Sequel DX is obviously a little bit buggy from what you can see, but it does offer you that additional Eggman fight that you wouldn't otherwise get in the original version. So I would still very much recommend DX in spite of that, and obviously Before the Sequel Plus is just amazing, just in terms of being widescreen, having the cutscenes work. Can't really get much better than that, really. But either way, I am pretty much done for today, I believe. So thank you very much for having me over to play these 2 games for you. It's been a great privilege to be here again after, what would it be, like nearly 2 years now?
Yeah, you're always welcome on these marathons, mate. Your runs are a lot of fun. But yeah, what we have coming up left in the incentive block tomorrow, on Saturday the 9th of June, we will have our handheld adaptation day. So that will be Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed for 3DS, which I'll be playing. We'll have Spar playing Sonic Colors DS, and then we'll wrap up with Tom playing Sonic Generations 3DS. Now, you may have noticed we did have to drop a couple of runs today because Tanner lives in Canada, where it seems like their biggest ISP has been having nationwide issues because of the weather, which is a lot of fun. As for when that will be played, we're kind of playing that by ear, because obviously it's an unprecedented situation. We don't know when it's all going to be back, so just keep an eye on the @HMarathons Twitter account, and we'll announce there as and when these streams are starting. But yeah, thank you very much for the runs today, Volk, and thank you to everyone who's donated over the course of the marathon so far. and we hope to see you back tomorrow for the runs tomorrow.
Yep, thank you very much, and hopefully Canada will be left not underwater long enough for the other two games to come, because I know Megamix is also very good, and the creepypasta stuff is also just very compelling in general. So I'm hopeful we'll get to see those. I'm sure they'll get it to work, even if it just winds up a bit on the later side. It's just a case of we need to wait for the water to all go away, and then we can pretty much resume things as regular, I suppose. But yes, I think this will be a good cutting off point. Thanks again for having me, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for the rest of the incentive blocks. So ciao for now.